Ahoy. Okay, thanks for coming back. We're going to wrap it up here and do the last bunch of these. Here we go. That was our break. Okay. Number 7. The bigger company usually wins, or always wins. Sometimes this is true, but it's pretty much of a myth because any company, any size company can win or lose, right? And this puzzled me for a long time because people would say, well, if you're not the first in the marketplace, you'll never make it. Or if you're not big enough, you won't make it. Or if you're not small enough, you won't make it. You hear that too. There's lots of theories about that, but it seems like the market can accept a lot of different size brands, a lot of different size companies. So why is that? And I finally figured it out. It's like that children's game, that scissors, paper, rock, that game? Yeah, it's kind of like that. And so a scissors company is one with a very sharp focus. It's usually a startup with one idea, and they just do that one thing really well, right? And so that's focus. Here's some American brands that just do those kinds of things: Craigslist, Tesla, the car, Beard Papa, which is a pizza place, Pandora, the music system. Okay, so they're small and they're very focused. A rock company is all about momentum. So once you grow big enough from your original focus, you start going faster and you make more money, and a lot of things change. So that's a different stage of a company's life. And so Dyson vacuum cleaners is at that stage. Method, I don't think you know them, the eco soap company. Zipcar, company that lets you just rent cars by the hour and drop them anywhere. Whole Foods, which is a famous new grocery store brand in the U.S. So they're really doing well. They have momentum. And then the last stage is paper, and those are the big companies, right? Disney, Microsoft, GE, and Google are all now paper companies. They're big. They can all live in the same marketplace together, but they have to watch out for each other. So that's the key there. So companies grow in this direction around like that. So you start as a scissors company, you are successful, you grow into a rock company, you then turn into a paper company if you live long enough. And then what happens is you eventually turn back into a scissors company, because what happens is big companies, they don't turn into scissors companies, but they spin off companies, and people leave those companies to start smaller companies, and it just keeps going around and around and around like that. Okay? Now, the other direction is the competing direction. You compete in the other direction. So what happens is the scissors company wins by clipping customers off of the big companies. It does something so well and so small and so focused that the big companies, it's taking customers from them, but they don't notice because it's just a small company that's doing it to them. They just don't care. They're not threatened by those little companies at all. So those little companies can attack big companies for a long time. Right? And then paper companies survive by covering rock companies. They either buy them or they push them out of business. They try to squash them, but usually they just buy them. They absorb them. Okay? And then rock companies with momentum, they try to crush the scissors companies because they recognize the threat, because they were just a focused scissors company, and so they try to crush them. So the scissors company has to watch out for those rock companies, but it can feed off of the paper companies. So that's how everyone survives. Like you have a growth direction and you have a competing direction. And once you know what stage you're at, it allows you everyone to operate sort of autonomously. You know what you're doing because you're at that stage. Those stages are called stable states. When you're really a startup, you know you're a startup. When you're really a momentum company, you know you're a momentum company. When you're really large, you know it. No problem. You learn how to do it. But in between those stages, when you're changing from one to another, that's when the trouble is. That's called the unstable states, where lots of things change. So when a company changes from being a focused scissors company into a momentum company, well, let's see what can change. Well, they might move to a new location. They might hire a lot of employees. They might start extending their brand or starting new little businesses within their business. They might even hire a new CEO. A lot of things can change at that stage. So that's a period of intense change. It's dangerous, but a lot of good things can happen too. Okay, well, interesting, but so what? Well, once you know where you're at and where your competitors are at, you can act accordingly. So you can exploit your company's strengths. If you know that you're a scissors company, you act like one. You stay really focused, right? If you know you're a paper company, you know that you've got a lot of strength in just your size, and you can buy momentum companies, or you can try to put them out of business when they're in their unstable state, maybe, you know. You can minimize your company's weakness. If you're in an unstable state, you might realize you're in a dangerous position. Or if you're a focus company, you may look out for those rock companies who could crush you and really stay out of their way, you know. So you just need to know where you're at there. You can exploit your competitors' weaknesses. You can prepare for your competitors' attacks. You can use the unstable states to renew your zag when everybody zigs zag. So you have this chance to change every time you're moving from one state to the other, to a bigger state. You have a great chance to rebrand yourself and reorganize your company. So you really should take advantage of that. And finally, you can refresh your zag during the stable states to block your competitors' moves. So when you're doing good, you can refresh your brand, which will fool the competition and make you stronger. You can attack yourself before they attack you. So there's lots of things you can do once you understand the paper, scissors, rock thing, okay? So I don't know, I just think that's really interesting, and it's in my mind with every company that I work for. I try to figure out what state they're at, what stage they're in. Number 8, myth. Radical ideas are always risky. Truth, radical ideas are powerful, and they may be risky. If you don't have a radical idea to introduce into the marketplace, you're not going to get much power out of it. It doesn't have the capability of being powerful. So the question is, can we do something powerful and survive it? Does it have to be risky, is the question. And the answer is not so much. You can de-risk ideas a little bit, maybe not all the way, but enough to make you feel safe to go ahead. And one of the ways I help companies do that is by taking a look at new ideas that they're thinking of introducing and subjecting them to this test. Okay, this is the test of whether your idea is bold enough to make a difference. Okay, so you've got two axes. You've got good and different. That's all you have to worry about. Is it good and is it different? Okay, so there's 4 things that can happen. You can be good but not different. In other words, your product is pretty good, it's cool, it's great, it works really good, but it's just not different. It's good and different. This is the best place to be. It's always up in that upper right corner where you want to be, but this is awesome if you can do this. It's good and different. You'll have a huge success on your hand. It can be not good and not different, and it can be different but not good, right? This is the worst place to be because people are afraid of different. Customers take a little bit of time to get used to different, and if it's not good also, I mean, this is just horrible. So you want to be in the good and different, Worst case, good but not different. This is not good. You don't want to be here because it's just going to cost you a lot of money and you're not going to get anywhere. And this could put you out of business. So knowing the difference is really important. And so what you do is you ask yourself, will this change I'm making to this company or this campaign or this identity or whatever you're doing, where does it fit? Because you want to be up in the upper right, and at least you want to be in the upper left. All right. So Aeron chair, we talked about the Aeron chair. When they designed this chair, they tested it and they tried to get a read on whether customers were going to buy this chair, and people said, I think it's really comfortable, but it's really weird. It's really weird. And that sort of made the company, Herman Miller, they weren't sure they wanted to put this chair out because if people thought it was weird, it didn't matter how comfortable it was. So what happened is they used this test, or one like it, and they found out, you know what? It's different and it's good. The fact that people think it's weird is a good thing. We could have a huge hit on our hands. So they got it into the market little by little, and it started to sell, and then it took off. And but this is what it looked like. So people said this, and they also said that. They said both together. And so when you see these kinds of comments together, that's a really good sign. That's what you're looking for. So this is taking the risk out of this, because they can say, well, it fits the pattern that we're looking for, which people say it's really good, but they also think it's kind of weird or ugly or something. Maybe this is a winner. And it's just like the Prius. When the Prius came out, people said it was ugly, but they also said it was good. And guess what? Everyone wants a Prius now, because they recognize it on the road. And as soon as they recognize it, they go, oh, I remember why it looks like that. It's a hybrid. So that fits into that category, good and different. This is what people thought was an office chair up to that point, and then it became that, and what a difference it made. Herman Miller, the company that put this out, told me privately, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but I'm sure you're not going to tell anyone. They said, after we introduced this, after 2 years after we introduced it, it was 30% of our revenue, one chair. And this is a company that makes huge, expensive office systems, cubicles, lots of other chairs, everything. One chair, 30% of their revenue. Why? Because it was good and different. Huge success. Okay, number 9. Best practices are leading practices. I don't know if you use that term, best practices, here, but it's huge in the United States. Every CEO wants their company to use best practices, meaning how do other people do it so that we are up to speed with everybody else? Fine. You don't want to be behind everybody else, but the fact is that best practices lead to sameness. They're not going to help you innovate. It'll keep you from getting behind, but if your goal is to innovate and be number one in something, this is not going to get you there. So best practices are not as good as new practices. That's what you want to do. So it's a way of playing safe. Why has this happened? Well, Richard C. Bolin, who is the dean of the Weatherhead School of Management in the U.S., said, the problem with managers today is that they do the first damn thing that pops into their heads. There's a whole level of reflectiveness, in other words, thinking, that's absent in traditional management that we can find in design. So this is the head of a management school saying, we have to be like designers. Design is the future of business. If you want to innovate, you got to design. That's the simple truth. And so we're talking about design at every level of a company. Design of, well, I'll get into that. Now, here's the problem, is that thanks to management school, traditional management school, this is the way CEOs think. They think that all the solutions are on the shelf already, and they just have to pick the right one. It's just a matter of choosing the right solution. And, there's only a few of them, so it's not that hard, So it's like picking clothes off the rack, You look at it and you go, well, no, I don't think that will suit the situation. Definitely not. Absolutely not. Not that one. Yeah, that's good. I'll take that one. I'll take that solution. Never mind that my leg's sticking out the back and, it's 40 years out of date. Close enough for business. That's traditional business, and that's not going to be good enough for innovation. We have to learn to stop deciding the way forward as if all the decisions are there waiting to be chosen. And we have to start designing the way forward. Design is the method where you go into the unknown and you pull something out, something new. So number 10, the safest way to extend a successful brand. It is safest to extend a successful brand. In other words, we have a brand that's selling, and we could start a new brand and try to sell that, but what if we just add something to the brand we already have? That would work. And a lot of times it's the right thing to do. And sometimes it's the wrong thing to do. Because a brand extension can kill a brand. Enough of those can really swamp it. Because what happens is it loses meaning as you extend it. It can. Or if you do it well, it can underline the meaning. It can make the meaning even more powerful. So you have to know what you're doing. Okay, so here's the 4 things that can kill a brand. Contagion. That's when you have a lot of products in your line, and if one has a problem, it affects the other one, like happened to the Audi. The Audi had this fictitious problem, which was unexpected acceleration. People said, I don't know, I didn't do anything. I stepped on the brake and it went through the garage wall. And then everybody else said, mine did too. And they all sued to get their money back. Okay, so actually it turned out that was not true. There was no unexpected acceleration. It was just a few people that had, that put their foot on the wrong pedal. But it ruined the whole line of cars because of that one problem. So that's the problem with having a line of cars or a line of anything, is if there's a problem with one, they can all be infected. Right? Another one is confusion. This is me trying to pick out toothpaste. People want a choice between brands, not within them. In other words, they don't want you to come out with 100 flavors of one thing. They just want the right one. Okay, maybe 2 or 3 flavors, 2 or 3 types, but not that many. So the fact that you make money by extending the brand doesn't mean you're always going to make money, because what will happen is the more you extend it, the less meaning your original brand has, until pretty soon it has none, and you're vulnerable to attacks from other competitors. Contradiction. This is when you try to sell a brand across different cultures. So let's see. You might not travel very easily. So let's say Disneyland decides, they want to go to France, and so they build a castle there. What? France doesn't need more castles, okay? There's castles everywhere. You have to drive around them. They're in the way. So, in the U.S., Disney might mean imaginative family fun, let's say, right? But in France, it might mean creeping colonialism, it might be, something awful, because it doesn't cross over the border. So you have to be careful not to extend into cultures where you're not wanted, right? Because that could ruin the entire Disney brand. Okay, so complexity. If you keep adding stuff and making it bigger and bigger, that just makes it harder for people to choose. It can become overgrown. And pretty soon you start selling things that other people can sell better than you can. And you only do that because if you sell one more thing, you make that much more money. But the whole time you're sowing the seeds of your failure. So sometimes you just have to bite the bullet, and you have to start a new brand when you have something that's different from the meaning of your original brand. You have to invest and do the whole thing over again. instead of just taking the easy road. Okay. So, you have to ask yourself, is this the way your customers see you, as an out-of-focus face? Right? We don't have time for the sacrifice game. We handed that out. And what that game is, though, just to let you know, it's where you do the onlyness test for your brand. You decide what it stands for, and then you look at all the things you're selling, the other brands, the sub-brands, the features, and so forth, and you eliminate ones that are not pulling their weight, that are not strong enough to be important, because they just add complexity to your business, and eventually your brand will fail if you let that go too long. So you should always be minimizing the number of things you sell, always be cutting it back, even if you lose money in the short term, because it's an investment in the clarity of your brand. Okay, 11. Focus groups show what people will buy. If we just show them a range of choices, they'll tell us which one they will buy. No, prototype testing is a much better indicator. So I think focus groups have been misused for many, many years. And I always hear companies saying, well, let's run that through a focus group and see if they like the idea. Focus groups are not designed to tell you if an idea is marketable. They're designed to focus the research. So if you don't know what you want to research and you're trying to discover something about anything about your brand, you do a focus group and you find out what people are concerned about. Then you research that. You don't decide from the focus group whether your idea is good or not. It's a real misuse of that. So a better way to do it is you prototype things. So I'll show you what design thinking can add to this. Design thinking, everybody's talking about design thinking, and a lot of people don't understand what it is. And I think I've figured out how to make it clear for you. This is how companies make decisions. They have two steps, knowing and doing. They know something because, or they think they know something because, oh, I learned about it in business school, or we tried that at our last company, or it worked before for our company, or I read an article in Time Magazine or Business Week or something that told me how to do this. So this is what I know, and now we just go do it, right? Now, since there's a little bit of risk in doing something you've never done before, or that maybe you think will work but you're not sure, what you do is you pull back on it. You keep it safe because you're afraid of the risk. And you do something very small and safe. You just go from knowing to doing. So it's very incremental. And it's not going to get you to innovation at all. Designers know better, and they've been doing this for a long time. And so what they say is, well, how do you know why do you think you know what you know? Maybe you don't know anything. Maybe you need to know more. Maybe you're doing the wrong thing. So why don't we take a look at that? And we'll put a step in the middle called making. And making pushes back on knowing, and it changes doing also, right? Because you imagine some new ideas, you prototype them, and you try them with the audience or in the marketplace, and then you change them and fix them, and then you take the risk out of doing something bigger, right? This allows you to be really bold because you start with a very bold, imaginative idea, and you bring it back to where it will work, and you test it so that nobody's too afraid of putting it into the marketplace. It's a huge difference. And so you're designing the way forward instead of deciding the way forward. Know, make, and do. Okay, 12. There's a myth that design comes after strategy. So the designers come in when the big boys leave. The designers are the people in the back room, and the business strategists figure out what should happen, and then we bring the designers in to decorate it or make it or whatever we need after it's safe because we've decided what the strategy is. So it's this top-down kind of management. That's a real misuse or underuse of design. Design is strategy, and strategy is design. Strategy is a kind of design, and if you don't understand that, you're not doing really good strategy. I mean, it is a way of creating something that wasn't there before, creating a path forward. And design can be used at simultaneously with strategy, and should be. So while the strategists are thinking about strategy, the designers should be trying things, and they should talk to each other and go back and forth because they're going to learn from each other, and you're going to create something completely new that way. So it's not after strategy, it's with strategy. And this is a new idea. And you have to have a really good collaborative partnership with between the two sides. But this is what our agency is doing now. We call it agile strategy. The researchers, the strategists, the designers all work simultaneously, each not knowing what the other is doing or finding out, and then they compare as they go, and they learn and jump back and forth, and they come up with really new ideas. And it happens fast. You do it really fast. In a week, you could come up with a whole great strategy. Very exciting way of working. And so here are some of the things that design can be applied to. You know, we know that it can be designed to external, we can apply it to external conversations. So that would be like identities and symbols and advertising. Okay, you can design those, we know that. And the moving up the ladder, products, we know we can design products and even services. You know, these are the posters and toasters of the 20th century. You know, we know that takes design. But we can move up and we can say a customer experience can be designed. We can design the way people feel about us. We can design a whole brand ecosystem, like all the people in the brand that contribute to the brand. We can design that collaboration. We can design processes. We can design internal communications, strategic decisions. Decisions can be designed. There can be a format for making decisions that you can design for a purpose. Business models, thought leadership, all this stuff can be designed if only you think about it as a design project. And that's what's missing in most companies. So when you start applying this, know, make, and do to everything, it creates a culture of innovation, a whole culture. All right, so here's how you make profits in a company today. If you want profits, you need customer loyalty. That's going to give you sustained profits, right? Because customers will sustain you. To get loyalty, you need to work on your brand. It has to be very clear. It has to be differentiated. If you want to build a brand, you need innovation, because you can't build one without innovation. You know, you need an innovative product, you need an innovative brand, you need innovative communications. If you want innovation, you need design. So if you want profits, you need design. You just have to start back at the beginning instead of the end. So it's a long chain of events, but unless you understand how the dots connect, you'll miss out on getting those sustainable profits. All right? So really, the answer to this in some companies is very simple. You just make sure there's a seat at the table for the designer who gets an Aeron chair. And that's something that's been missing for a long time, is a leadership team needs somebody who speaks for innovation and design and brand at the top. Finally, 13. Myth, branding is a marketing function. This is something that should be in the marketing department. Well, branding isn't a department. Okay, it's a company function. Everyone in the company is building the brand or hurting the brand at any given time. So the marketing function definitely has a lot of branding to do, but the whole company needs to do it. So when you think about building a brand, it takes everyone to build a brand. So in the middle, you've got the company and all the departments. You've got marketing and communications, strategy, HR, distribution, R&D, operations, all that stuff. They have to talk to each other and understand what they're doing together to build a brand. And those people on the outside of the company, brand strategists, identity designers, product designers, PR people, ethnographers, researchers, consultants, all those people need to work together in some fashion too. They can't be working separately. They all have to be working to the same script. And unless you can crack that problem in a big company, you're going to have a fractured brand, an accidental brand. You need to really pull all that together. So that usually takes somebody inside the company whose responsibility is the brand, take care of the brand. And so it all comes down to what the CEO thinks about running a company, what it involves. And often a CEO will come to me and say, I'm a little confused about where brand fits in my company, who's in charge of the brand, or what department it should be in. Can you tell me, how to address that? And I'll say it's not like that. It's more like this. It's like a double helix. You think about like one side of this helix is this is the DNA of your company, business, right? So that's one strand. What's the other strand? Well, the other strand obviously is brand. That's the way people outside the company see it. So there's two intertwining strands, and they have to be connected all the way down. There has to be a one-to-one connection. Everything on the inside has to be reflected on the outside transparently. If it's not, you get an accidental brand. You get a bad brand, and that's it. That's the truth. So that's my presentation. Thank you all very much for coming.